Hello my fellow hunters! Monster Hunter Wilds was revealed at the Game Awards and it will be releasing on the PS5, Xbox and PC in 2025. My friend Astrea asked me what my hopes were for Monster Hunter Wilds, and so I decided to make a video of what I want to see in Monster Hunter Wilds. So I will be discussing which monsters I want to return for Wilds, for different locations, weapon movesets and much more. Comment down below what your wish list is for Monster Hunter Wilds. And so let's jump right into the video and start with my list of returning monsters. So when it comes to returning monsters, most of the flagship monsters usually return, like they did in Iceborne and Sunbreak. So I will not be listing some of them. Same thing goes for Rathian, Rathalos and Diablos, since they are in every single game, but I'll be listing all kinds of monsters that I have soloed from Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate to Sunbreak, including subspecies, rare species, variants and elder dragons. So the list begins with Great Jaggy and Velocidrome. These two monsters are among the most recognizable raptors in the Monster Hunter series, and both of these monsters have been absent for a long time. The juveniles of these monsters are in Sunbreak, but it is a shame the adults weren't added. And I want these two monsters to return for Wilds, since they can update both fights and make them great again. Also, they can offer some really good armor for early low rank. The next few monsters are among the monsters I want to see return. So the next lot of monsters are Testacobra, Najarala, Nesilla, Zamtrios, Gobble and Nibblesnarf. Honestly, there is a lot of monsters from 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate that are in this list, but I think Iceborne and Sunbreak were lacking on certain classes of monsters. We need more amphibians, snake wyverns, insects, leviathans and brute wyverns. Testacobra and Zamtrios were teased in Rise, but since we've seen the baby versions, and it was a shame that they didn't get added. Both Testacobra and Zamtrios are really fun monsters to fight, especially in early low rank. But when it comes to Najarala, we haven't seen any new snake wyverns for years, and I think Najarala will be the perfect monster to reintroduce snake wyverns back into the main series. Rise Sunbreak added Ratna as the new spider monster, but we only got 2 new ones, so I think Nesilla needs to return since it's the original spider monster, and I want to see its unique fight in HD. Gobble and Nibblesnarf are fun leviathans, but in order for Gobble to work, we need to have underwater combat back, or reworked, so its fight can work on both land and sea, similar to how you fight Nibblesnarf and Royal Ludroth. I also want Giganox and Celtis Queen to return for Wilds. because they are unique monsters that haven't been seen for a while. Giganox is just a better version of Kezu and is more fun to fight. Celtis Queen is one of my favourite monsters from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, since its gimmick is quite unique, since it uses a male Celtis to make it mobile in the air. Now it's time for some flagships and endgame monsters. When it comes to flagship monsters, most of them will always return, but I think for wilds, I want to see Gammoth return, since it's the only member of the Fated 4 that hasn't come over to the new generation, and I believe they can improve its fight depending if we get a Tundra locale. Glavenus is the second flagship I want to return for wilds, since in Rise Sunbreak we were lacking on brute wyverns, and I think Glavenus needs to make his return since he is one of the best brute wyverns in the series. Depending if Tigrex, Nagakuga and Barioth are in wilds, these two monsters need to return since they share the same skeleton. Akantor and Eukanlos, two Elder Dragon level monsters that are at the end of high rank, just like Devil Joe, Rajang and other Elder Dragons. These two monsters come in a pair, and they were last seen in Generations Ultimate, and they both need to return mainly because I want to see both of these monsters updated and also be a real challenge, just like how they are in the older games. I think it's a given that Rajang will be in wilds, since he was in Iceborne and Rise, but I think we need some invading monsters, so I believe to make some quests more fun or harder, invading monsters should come back. So that means Devil Joe and Basil Geese will return, since these two monsters can be difficult if they invade you early in high rank quests, just like how they did in Monster Hunter World and in the older games. Now, the biggest monster to return in wilds is the flagship Leviathan himself, Lagiacrus. He hasn't returned for a long time now. He was planned for Monster Hunter World, but he got cut due to his skeleton not working properly. But now it's been 6 years and they had Leviathans in Rise. So here's hoping they finally managed to fix Lagiacrus, because he's a monster that needs to return. The other Leviathan I want to return is Agnactor. Both of these monsters were last seen in Generations Ultimate, and they are both amazing monsters. There were baby Agnactors in Rise, so I'm not sure why Agnactor wasn't added in Rise, but I want to see both of these monsters in HD. As for endgame monsters, it is a given that Teostra and Kushala will be in wilds, since they are part of the original Elder Dragon trio. But this time I want Camilios to return, since he skipped Monster Hunter World and was in Monster Hunter Rise. As for other monsters, I want my favourite brute wyvern to return, Raging Brachydios. Raging Brachydios is my favourite variant in the series, and I think he should be in Wild's Master Ranks endgame. But obviously we will have regular Brachydios in high rank, so we could have a second option for blast weapons. So the last few monsters that I want to return the most begins with Monoblos. Monoblos has been left behind and overshadowed by Diablos ever since they were introduced. Monoblos was last seen in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and hasn't been in the main series game for a long time, and I actually really like Monoblos over Diablos. Monster Hunter Wilds will be the perfect chance to bring him back, since the first trailer we've seen is a huge desert locale, which will be perfect for most monsters to roam, and Monoblos will be awesome in HD. The next monster is the colossal serpent, Dalamedur, the biggest elder dragon in the series. Dalamedur was last seen in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and since he's a snake elder dragon, the only way for him to come back is if they bring back snake wyverns, and also rework his siege mechanics. As for the next two monsters, they are a bit more difficult to bring back, since they need underwater combat to function. Sedeus and Diamorales. Sedeus was the first underwater elder dragon you take on in Tri and 3 Ultimate, and I think he can return if Wilds has some form of underwater combat. As for Diamorales, he was the third black dragon to be introduced, and he was in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, alongside Alatrion. Diamorales can possibly work on land, but since its lower half of his body is in bodies of water, it will be difficult to bring him back. But both of these monsters need to return at some point. As for Alatrion, I want my boy to return. Alatrion is my most favourite monster in the series, and he needs to come back. His fight in Iceborne was perfect, so I want him to return for Wilds. There's a high chance that none of these monsters will return for Wilds, so if they don't make it, I hope we get a lot of classic subspecies that were absent in Rise, such as Pinkarathian, Azure Rathalos, Stygian Senoga, Brute Tigrex, Purple Ludroth, Jade Baroth, Sand Barioth, and as for rare species, they will most likely be in the Master Rank expansion, so hoping these rare species will be in a roster from the start. Molten Tigrex, Silver Rathalos, Gold Rathian, and Lucent Nagakuga. So these are the monsters I want to see return for Wilds. And now let's move on to the locales. When it comes to locales in Monster Hunter, there are a large variety ranging from lush forests, frozen tundras, active volcanoes, mountaintops, underwater caves, vast swamps, and scorching deserts. With the release of Monster Hunter World, the locales felt more alive and have more atmosphere. The Rotten Vale and the Elder's Recess are such examples. The locales are just as important as the monsters we hunt in their natural environment, but some locales reflect on what type of monsters we are hunting. The main thing is with Monster Hunter Wilds, we have seen a small glimpse of the desert locale, which is a standard hunting ground in Monster Hunter. so I hope we get some remade maps from previous games in Monster Hunter Wilds. The Forlorn Arena is my favourite arena and it was added into Sunbreak, but I think it would look better on the new engine they are using to develop Monster Hunter Wilds. The Volcanic Hollow is a classic map that I liked from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and I like to see it remade for Wilds since it's one of the biggest volcanic maps in Monster Hunter. The Frozen Seaway is one of the best tundra maps in Monster Hunter, and it needs to come back if Sanctuarius returns. And it also has a large range of different areas for different monsters. The Ruined Pinnacle was the locale where you fight Volstrax and many tough monsters in Generations Ultimate, and it needs to come back because it's just one of the best maps from Generations Ultimate. Depending if a Cantor and Eucanlos return, we need to have the Ingle Isle and also Polar Field to return, because those locales are used for the hardest fights in Monster Hunter. Also, maps like Misty Peaks and the Deserted Island would also be good to see remade, since those maps have a lot going on in the environment, and with today's graphics they would look amazing if the Monster Hunter team remade them for a future game. So these are the locales I want to see in Monster Hunter Wilds, and I hope at least some of these maps return, but from the looks of it, Monster Hunter Wilds will either be open world or have the locales connected in some way. And so let's move on to the next section. Underwater combat was introduced in Monster Hunter Tri and was expanded upon in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. It is the mechanic that makes Monster Hunter Tri one of the unique Monster Hunter titles. Each Monster Hunter title had a unique mechanic that made the game different from the previous games, and the third generation was a sort of soft reboot of the series, and brought with it underwater combat and also underwater monsters. Many people I know started with Monster Hunter Tri, and underwater combat is a mechanic that most people want to see return in a future game. With the new hardware the Monster Hunter team has access to, they can actually improve underwater combat if they decide to bring it back. The mechanic itself is a bit clunky in 3 Ultimate, but it is also kind of fun depending on what monster you're hunting. When it comes to underwater combat, there are many things that can be improved, such as luring the monster to the surface with either an item or even based on a fishing rod. But obviously, if we are dealing with elder dragons like Sedeus, then it would most likely need a new underwater arena with Dragonators. But also the hunter's speed needs to be improved, since underwater monsters like Lagiacrus are quite fast underwater. Generally, there are only a small amount of monsters that can be hunters underwater, so some of these monsters are hard to bring back, since underwater combat is required for them to function. Lagiacrus, Royal Ludroth, Plesiosaur are the only monsters that can be hunted underwater and on land, and these monsters were seen from Generations Ultimate to Sunbreak. The mechanic is what made Tri stand out, and it is many people's favourite for a reason. So I hope in Monster Hunter Wilds we get underwater combat in some shape or form, but we will find out when they drop some news later this year. And so, let's move on to the next section. When it comes to the different weapon types in Monster Hunter, over the course of the series, the weapons have changed the movesets in every Monster Hunter game, but added new combos each time, which makes all the weapons different and unique. Over time, the new moves became a staple move for that particular weapon. With the release of Monster Hunter World, the weapon combat is the best in this series so far, since the weapons have updated movesets that were added in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and Monster Hunter Generations. In Generations and Sunbreak, the weapons had Hunter Arts and Wirebug skills, which gave all the weapons unique attacks and skills that can drastically change the weapon's playstyle. Monster Hunter Wilds is possibly a sequel to Monster Hunter World, so the weapon movesets will most likely be the same as Monster Hunter Worlds, but I think certain weapons should be given some moves that were added in Sunbreak. I will list which weapons that I think need some moves that were added in Sunbreak. First, I'm going to start with Hammer. Since it's mostly the same in every game, but I'd say keep its current moveset in Iceborne, but give it the Impact Crater Wirebug skill from Rise, but make it have more KO chance, since its attack lands 2 hits on its finisher, and also make it a bit stronger. Dual Blades in Iceborne are pretty much perfect, but I say they have a tough time keeping their sharpness since they eat through it quite quickly. So I think Dual Blades should be given the move from Sunbreak that sharpens your Dual Blades and keeps them at max sharpness for a short period of time. Greatsword is pretty much has the same moveset in Iceborne and Sunbreak, but the only move that should be carried over from Sunbreak is the Rage Slash. The Rage Slash can change the Charge Slash into any direction, which can be good if you're fighting fast monsters, and it also can be quicker than the TCS, but it just needs its damage improved. Longsword is pretty much has the perfect moveset in Iceborne, since it doesn't rely too much on counter spam as it does in Sunbreak. The only move the Longsword should receive is the Sacred Sheath, which is the strongest move in Sunbreak, and it is perfect for finishing blows and also waking up sleeping monsters. Switch Axe is my top weapon since it's my go-to weapon in Sunbreak, so I think for Wilds, the Switch Axe needs the 2-stage morph / combo and the Soaring Wyvern Blade. These two moves are a staple in Sunbreak, and they give the Switch Axe more utility in combat. And with the 2-stage morph / combo, you can keep on reamping your Switch Axe while hitting the monster. The Elemental Burst counter can also be added to the moveset, but make it more rewarding to pull off. But going forward, the Switch Axe needs the 2-stage morph / combo in its base moveset. As for Charge Blade, Insect Glaive and Lance, they should keep their current movesets as they are in Iceborne, but I say for Lance, do give it some moves that were added in Sunbreak to make Lance stand out a bit more. When we get some news on Wilds in a few months, hopefully we will see some combat and see what changes they made, and there is a chance that the Clutched Claw will also return, but I'd say is keep the Clutched Claw but remove the tenderizing part of it, because some weapons are too slow when tenderizing a weak point. And so let's move on to the next section. Sieges have always been a part of the Monster Hunter series, and every Monster Hunter title has included one starting from the original Monster Hunter. Sieges are usually used to fight the largest monsters that are in the series, but in World Iceborne they added 2 sieges for Kolv Taroth and Safi Jiva, which changed the normal siege to a weapon grind, since Kolv Taroth and Safi Jiva gave out relic weapons. Depending on which Elder Dragon you decide to farm, Kolv Taroth gave out the best elemental weapons, while Safi Jiva gave out weapons that you could customize to your liking when it comes to weapon skills, element or status effects. I personally want these 2 types of sieges to be in Wilds, but instead of Kolv and Safi, they should be replaced with Gogmazios and Dalamadur, because those 2 monsters are among the best siege fights in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and I think the relic system can work for both, since Gogmazios is more of a raw and status focused, while Dalamadur is more elemental focused. But we will find out soon enough if sieges return for Wilds. There's a good chance we will get at least one for one large Elder Dragon. And so, let's move on to the next section. When Iceborne released, it added a new feature, which is a first for Monster Hunter: the freedom to customize your room in the village and decorate it the way you want it, with the inclusion of showing off the endemic life you have caught while out on the hunt. I really liked this feature when I was playing through Iceborne, and I managed to snag every rare endemic life you can find and have put them everywhere to show off, along with other stuff. This feature was missing in Monster Hunter Rise, which made your room in that game pointless, mainly because you can't invite your friends or actually customize it except for placing paintings and figures you've collected. So in Monster Hunter Wilds, I want to be able to customize my room again, and also be able to capture endemic life, just like in Iceborne. Since Wilds can be a follow-up from Iceborne, room customization might return, since it is using pretty much a similar engine they used for Monster Hunter World. And so, let's move on to the final section. Monster Hunter is known to have some crazy events and crossovers in pretty much most of the games, and Iceborne has some really amazing ones. So I hope in Wilds we get a decent amount of cool events, like a Devil May Cry event, a USJ event, Resident Evil events, and just really challenging events, something like Double Strength White Fatalis or something like Hazard Amatsu. But time will tell once the game releases. Every Monster Hunter title has had a lot of cool events over the years, and they are a good part of the series since most of them are fun to do and offer unique armor and weapons. However, please don't do what Rise did. Weekly events for stupid stickers. That was painful in base Rise. Please don't do sticker events ever again. So this is my wish list for Monster Hunter Wilds. We don't know much about Wilds at the moment, but it is fun to discuss what will be in the game when it releases. But there is a high chance that most of my wish list won't be in the final release, but who knows. This video has taken me just over a month to put together, due to my work schedule and also my circumstances changing since I am preparing to move out in a few weeks time. But this video was really fun to make, but it has took me a lot of time to put together, and this project was my longest project to finish, since it took me a long time to produce it. So anyway, I think I have talked for long enough, and I'd just like to say thank you all for your support, and if you liked the video, give it a like and share it with your friends, and also comment down below your thoughts on this wish list. So I'll catch you guys at the next video. Thank you all for watching, and of course, happy hunting!